Hello, everyone. I'm Robin Ingalls. I'm an infectious disease physician in the Department of Medicine. My research interests focused on sexually transmitted infections, or STIs. And as this infographic demonstrates, among the bacterial STIs, chlamydia and gonorrhea, which are my two pathogens of interest, really account for over 2 million cases a year of infection. And as it hints at the bottom, these infections have significant complications and disproportionately affect different people. Women in particular are disproportionately affected by STIs, and specifically chlamydia and gonorrhea, compared to men. There are a few reasons for this. Women tend to have fewer symptoms. They're often described as being asymptomatic, but I think often women have symptoms, but they just don't recognize them. When symptoms are not recognized, this leads to delay in treatment and increased risk of complications, which for women can be significant and include pelvic inflammatory disease, also known as PID, can develop into infertility and increase the risk of ectopic pregnancy. And when untreated infection occurs during pregnancy, this can lead to an increased risk for preterm birth and low birth weight babies. As the graph shows, this is CDC data. Chlamydia specifically has increased risk in women compared to men. And you'll note that for Black women, compared to their white counterparts, the risk of chlamydia is 5 times higher. And for gonorrhea, it's actually even higher, 7 times higher than white women. So my interests are really in understanding the immunology of the female reproductive tract and what happens in this organ when infection occurs. Chlamydia and gonorrhea primarily infect the columnar epithelial cells at the level of the cervix. However, in around 20% of women who get infected, the infection will ascend higher up into now the uterine cavity, where it can cause endometritis, also known as pelvic inflammatory disease. And in a really small subset of women, estimated to be around 2%, infection can actually get into the fallopian tube. So this is a rare occurrence, but when that does occur, within the fallopian tube, infection actually leads to scarring and blockage of the tube, which can contribute to the development of infertility and increase the risk of ectopic pregnancy. So my goals in my lab are to really improve our understanding of how sexually transmitted infections lead to complications in the female reproductive tract. What I don't understand is, I understand inflammation and bacteria induce cytokines and inflammatory mediators, but why do some women get upper tract disease? And why within the fallopian tube does this lead to scarring and not simply inflammation? And can we do more than just give antibiotics? I actually had someone tell me recently, why do you study bacterial sexually transmitted infections? You can just treat it with antibiotics. And that's not the solution, because we need to either prevent or try to reverse some of these complications. I'm also very interested in understanding the impact of hormones on STIs. So both endogenous hormones, so cycling of estrogen and progesterone during the ovulatory cycle. And recently I got an R21 to study gender-affirming hormone therapy and the impact of that on the female reproductive tract. So we're trying to recreate in vitro the effects of testosterone on the female reproductive tract. And something that I'm not studying, but has always fascinated me as something worth looking into, would be looking at the potential effects of endocrine disrupting chemicals that have been mentioned earlier, and could that be playing a role in some of the healthcare disparities that we are seeing in minority populations?